Hello friends. Today we left our city and came to the heart of Montenegrin tourism, to Budva. And we're going to have an interview with a very interesting young woman, Natalia, who creates these wonderful things. You'll see them in the video. We'll show them to you a bit later. Soon we'll return to this hobby, which I think has come as quite a surprise to all the handicraft enthusiasts in Montenegro. But for now, let's talk a little with Natalia. Let's start by talking about Montenegro. Tell us, how long have you been here? Where did you come from? And what's your perspective? Why did you choose Montenegro?
We arrived about 3 months ago. We had been planning to move to Montenegro for quite a while, about 2 years. We researched and watched bloggers. Why did we want to come here in the first place? We were here on our honeymoon. We really liked it here. Even back then, we were already thinking about moving from Russia and started looking into it. We went back to Moscow, Tanya's from the Rostov region. But we've been living in Moscow for 5 or 6 years already. We returned to Moscow and started researching Montenegro and gradually planning our move here.
Listen, we just met your husband. He met us near the house, and I noticed that he's already talking with the courier. Has he already learned the language, or is there another reason for it?
Well, for him, languages are really easy, unlike for me. But he started learning Serbian about 6 months before we arrived. He was taking online lessons with a teacher. Languages in general come easily to him. And when he moved here, he started talking with the locals, and he really enjoys it. He can even chat with the locals in Russian. And that's how, little by little, yes, he's already pretty good at it. He's in charge of communicating with the locals, meaning he talks to couriers and local clients.
You have local clients?
Yes, the locals often buy quite a lot.
Wow, that's actually amazing. What you do is really beautiful. My wife showed me these photos a long time ago. I don't even know if she ordered something from you or not. I can't remember. I remember that I wanted to order, but I ordered somewhere. I don't know.
No.
Yes, but honestly, I thought it was just, an order. You never know, maybe it's some online store from Sweden or Switzerland or America, but it turns out it's made right here in our city, in our country, in Montenegro. Listen, you've only been here for a relatively short time, but people already know you. How did that happen? I heard that you already gave interviews to either magazines or some bloggers.
Well, probably because people notice me, because this technique doesn't exist here in Montenegro. And for people who live here, maybe for Russians and for the locals, it's something completely new and unusual. That's probably why there's so much attention. Plus, when I first arrived here, I actively advertised on Instagram and Facebook, targeting both the local population and Russian speakers living here. So maybe that's also a factor. And besides, Facebook is booming, life is happening there now, as I understand it. And it always has been. That's probably why they remembered it.
Out of every one of the people I've met, all the people you've brought over, and the several hundred who have come through me, you're only the second person who started advertising even before coming to Montenegro. The first was me. Yes. Let me read the name to make sure I remember correctly. The technique is called epoxy resin pouring. When I was coming here just now, I didn't know what you did. I said, I've seen all these things on Instagram. My wife showed me, but I thought you had to order them from another country. And she tells me, well, it's the epoxy resin pouring technique. I thought, well, maybe I'll see some napkins made of black resin here, something a bit unusual. But what I see is really cool tableware. It's really made from resin. It looks pretty sturdy.
Yes, it's all made from epoxy. Epoxy is liquid at first, right? 2 components, and after a day, it hardens and becomes quite strong. The texture is reminiscent of plastic. It looks kind of like glass maybe, but it's more like plastic, but very strong. Yes, very strong. So if it falls, it won't break.
We're not going to test that, of course.
The coasters and plates are quite sturdy.
Listen, how long have you been doing this hobby?
Well, about a year and a half, around a year and a half. I started doing this in Moscow. I went on maternity leave, had a baby, was at home on leave, and gradually started to realize that I needed to do something creative. I started painting, then tried using epoxy resin just as a gloss to make a glossy finish on the coasters, like I used to paint with acrylic. And gradually, I got drawn into the world of epoxy resin. I bought one pigment, then another, then one mold, then another, and started experimenting on my own, trying things out. And so, little by little, I just got pulled in more and more.
Do you have any formal art education, or did you just decide, I'm bored on maternity leave, let me find something to do?
I went to art school back when I was in regular school, finished art school, but I didn't go on to study at any art universities. But I was always involved in something creative. I did decoupage, painted furniture, drew things like that. There's always been some creative spark in me, so I dabbled a bit in different kinds of creative activities.
Tell me, did you originally think of this as a hobby, or did you see it as a way to make money from the start?
Well, I always wanted my work to be creative. I wanted to do something creative, make things with my own hands, and earn money from it. But for a long time, I couldn't quite find exactly what kind of creativity that would be. But when I started, of course not, I was just trying it out for myself at first. And gradually I saw that there was demand for it. So I started learning, taking courses. And I realized that I needed to invest in education so that later I could do all this as quality work for sale.
Natasha, how does your husband feel about this? Does he support you, or does he say you're wasting your time and that you should get a regular job so you both earn money together?
No, he supports me. Yes, of course, he supports me, helps out, sometimes sends down the coasters. He handles all the communication with the couriers and everything else. Yes, he's totally on board. So, yes, he supports me.
Listen, I'm curious, where do you think it's more profitable to do this kind of work? Well, let's put it this way. Where are there more clients in Russia, in Montenegro, or maybe even clients from other countries?
Well, in Russia, actually, this technique is really popular right now. There are a lot of artists. So, a year and a half ago, when I started, we were all just getting started learning from the top masters, and there were only a few of them in Russia. Now, a year and a half later, there are literally hundreds. So the market there is even starting to get a bit disrupted in this field, because new artisans are beginning to significantly lower their prices.
And pass on their knowledge.
Yes, and now it's really hard to break through there if you didn't make it a year ago in this field. As for here, I haven't quite figured it out yet, but there is demand. There is demand from the locals specifically for the product itself, plus there's also demand for training. They want to learn this as well. Among Russian folks, there's probably demand for master classes, but when it comes to finished products, the interest is pretty weak.
So Montenegrins are also clients, not just Russians.
Montenegro is actually the main customers when it comes to sales. As for finished products, that's different. I make them for them.
The master classes are mostly for Russian speakers. You haven't told them yet, right?
Well, I don't speak very well, but 2 local girls have already come to me. So there is demand, and I realize my language skills are a bit lacking, but I took a chance, accepted 2 of them, and it seems we managed to explain everything just fine.
So basically you just show them, right?
Yes, and they got good work. They really liked it.
Do you remember who your first client was?
Yes, I remember. It was a girl, one of our Russian speakers. She saw it either on my Instagram or on Kolya's blog, I don't even remember anymore, but she ordered a large tray with a sea motif and a set of coasters called For Your Mother-in-Law. She's local Montenegrin, lives somewhere up in the mountains in a valley, and can't go down to the sea, so for her birthday she was given this sea-themed set, yes.
Your husband runs a blog on this topic, so does he help you with everything?
No, he runs his own blog. He started his blog back in Moscow about moving. So, yes, he's mentioned me somewhere and talked about himself in his Telegram channel, saying that his wife works with epoxy resin.
Listen, is it possible to learn all of this? Is it difficult or not so difficult? About how much time does it take?
Well, there are different workshops where you just come, make something, leave, and don't really get into it or continue down that epoxy resin path. But if you really want to learn, of course you can. And I think it doesn't take that much time. The only thing is you need practice. That is, you need to understand the resin itself, how it works. Once you get that, you'll be able to make really cool pieces. But the downside is that there are no materials in Montenegro. So that's why...
But you could say the same thing here when it comes to material. I'm not saying there's nothing in Montenegro, it's just that you have no idea where to find it, right? But when it comes to materials for decoupage or whatever else for this as well, there's definitely a problem here. Where do you get your supplies from, Serbia?
No, all comes from Russia.
By mail?
Yes. Well, I knew there was nothing here. So even back in Russia, I planned out how I would bring everything over. And because there's nothing available here, I can't provide people with materials. So for now, I'm not teaching any. Once I know I can supply them with materials to keep working, then maybe I'll start taking on students again.
But my wife told me that you're running some workshops. Is that not true?
Yes, there are workshops, but at a workshop you just come, say, to make some coasters for your home, and that's it.
So it's not really teaching, it's more like something short. You make one thing and then leave.
Yes, it's all about the atmosphere. It's the atmosphere of, well, the atmosphere of creativity, of mixing things together. You choose the colors you want, the shapes, you pour them, and then you watch how the resin works. So this kind of workshop is really about immersing yourself in creativity. That's probably the best way to put it.
Tell me how they go, how long do they last, how much do they cost? Is it for one person or a group? How does it work in general?
I hold individual workshops here at my home, in my studio, and I also run group workshops at my Open Heart studio, which is in Dukla, with about 5 or 6 people in a group. It costs 45 to 55 euros, depending on which workshop it is and the theme, whether it's coasters or the sea, for example.
Listen, look, that's the one on the roundabout. The expensive complex, right?
Yes, yes.
Tell me, isn't the rent there for holding workshops outrageously expensive?
Well, we have fairly reasonable terms. If you get a group together, 5, 6, or 7 people, then yes, it works out well.
Got it. Listen, I'm curious working with resin. Is it dangerous or not? Is it toxic or is it a completely safe material?
No, it is toxic. It's not safe. You need to know the safety procedures, protect your respiratory system, and wear a respirator. I use a 3M mask because I work almost every day. That is, when you mix resin, it releases fumes, not something that will kill you if you inhale them once, but they do have a cumulative effect. So, if you work for a long time without a mask and, of course, without gloves, you might get some kind of allergy, but the main damage is to your lungs, your respiratory system, and these resins accumulate in your body, and at some point, this could lead to some illness. That's why you always need to wear a respirator during workshops. Naturally, that means gloves, an apron, and a disposable 3M mask with a charcoal filter. So yes, it's all about safety.
Basically, everyone's already used to wearing masks.
Yes.
Okay, that's when you're working. But what about the finished products, the ones that are just sitting there? Are they safe now?
No, they're not dangerous. Once the resin has polymerized and fully hardened, it's completely safe. You can put food on it, in fact. The resin I use comes from manufacturers who have all the necessary certificates stating that you can place cold fruits and berries on it. There's no toxicity. The resin won't leach out.
Only cold things? Can you pour hot tea on it?
No, but you can put a cup on it, yes, like on a coaster. Well, I mean something like a cutlet, for example. I guess it would be kind of putting a cutlet with mashed potatoes on an epoxy plate or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. Listen, I get that you're having some issues with material supplies right now, but I'm sure you'll sort them out over time. You just need to order more shipments. So I'm curious, do you think at some point you'll be working with a major client? Like, I don't know, maybe a store, like a dishware shop, or maybe you'll take your stuff out to a market or something.
Actually, I think I don't really want to focus on dishware. I'd like to move into larger scale projects, maybe by making interior art pieces, clocks, or maybe even interior tables and tabletops made with epoxy resin. Right now, I want to make a few pieces, photograph them nicely in an interior setting, and then start looking for designers who work here in Montenegro so they can send me their ideas of what I could make for them.
So basically, interior songs, so you're working with those kinds of places now.
Yeah, probably something more along those lines.
Alright friends, I'll leave Natalia's contact information in the description. You can get in touch with her if you're interested in buying any items made from epoxy resin. I'll also add all her contacts to everything she gives me, whether it's Instagram or maybe something else. I'll ask her now what platform she uses. And you can also reach out to Natalia if you're interested in participating in her masterclasses. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye.
Take care.